What's up, guys? Bingo here. I'm with the Duel Factory for episode 22 of X-2 Drop, a weekly Yu-Gi-Oh podcast we do, talking about the metagame, events, product releases, just about anything in the game. This week's topic is going to be how do rogue decks contend in this upcoming format, and that being post the July 2019 Forbidden and Limited list. But before we get into that, I want to do a quick shout out to Legacy Crusaders, who made the sweet new thumbnail for this. YouTube.com/Legacy Crusaders. He does a bunch of how to play a deck, how to play a certain deck. So check him out if you feel like it, but I appreciate it. I didn't ask him to do it, so it's pretty cool of him. But getting back to the topic, how do rogue decks fare in this upcoming format? Because that's always a question, whether you're just not a meta sheep or you just don't feel like playing something because you don't like it. So, Joe, going into this format, what do you think so far?
So how many weeks have we been in this format now? 2 or 3?
The list came out about 3 weeks ago, I think.
Okay, so for me personally, I've been playing Rogue for I've been playing Rogue for the last 3 weeks. I've played Heroes and I played Mech Knight, or Invoked Mech Knight. I think now, after playing it for 3 weeks and playing against a couple of meta decks, I've played against a Thunder a couple times, I've played against Striker a couple times, there was a couple Solomon Great players. I haven't played against any Orcus yet, so that's kind of weird, especially since our locals is full of Orcus players. And what was the other deck I was talking about earlier? That we were talking about earlier.
Solomon Great, Striker, Thunder, and Orcus, and Pendulum.
Okay. Oh, and Pendulum. I haven't played against any Pendulum yet, though, so I don't know exactly. And I haven't seen any Pendulum on Dueling Book when I go in there to watch matches and stuff like that. But I think it's a really, really good time to play Rogue right now. Especially decks that can benefit on playing Super Poly right now. Because a lot of the decks are the big ones are susceptible to Super Poly. The only one I don't think is super susceptible to it is Striker. Because I don't think it really does enough against that deck. Because they're only putting up one monster at a time, usually anyway. You're trying to deal with their spell interruptions, such as Widow Anchor and Shark Cannon, and they'll play Called by the Graves and stuff like that. But so I think that card's really powerful. I just playing against Thunder, they go first and they're gonna do their board anyway, and they don't really have an out to Super Poly, which I was talking about potentially playing Crystal Wing over Hot Red in that deck because of Super Poly, but that's for another time. But you just take those two cards and make Starving Venom, and then they're just kind of left with a Spell Negate that doesn't really do anything without the other monsters on the field, and a bounce. That's what they have. And most people aren't playing the Amorphate Sloth to make the bounce worthwhile. So you're just free to play at that point. Against Salomon Great, when I was playing Invoke Mech Knight, I wasn't playing Violet Chimera originally in the extra because I didn't think it was needed, but I still think it's necessary right now to play just because of how easy it is for them to still combo even with one Gazelle. I think it's really necessary to play that card as a form of interruption. And like I said, I haven't played against Orcus yet, and I haven't played against Pendulum, so I don't really know how Rogue stacks up against those decks, but if the decks that were leaps and bounds better than those previously have been hindered just like the best decks are now, I think your matchups are probably going to be really, really easy, and I think Rogue just got way better. Way better.
Yeah, I think Rogue is looking very, very good, and it always seems that way going straight into a new format, right, where the best decks get notched down and no one really knows the best way to play them, and that is the best time to be a Rogue player. And with that being said, I think other than Danger Thunder and Pendulum Magician, the best decks, they're just a little bit above Rogue decks, right? They're just more consistent than most Rogue decks, and I think that's the only reason why they are best decks. Invoked is a consistent deck, but it has hard counters in the format as well as being susceptible to losing to one form of interruption if your hand is lackluster. Invoke can do a lot more than the current versions of Orcus. I definitely think it's more intimidating to go up against an Invoked player with a good hand than a Orcus player with a good hand, because they're just going to end on like either Topologic or like Dingirsu, Live Engrave. Like it's nothing too scary. Where an Invoke player who opens Super Poly, like that's a pain in the ass.
I can agree with you on that, honestly. The one thing why I think Orc is going to be a more viable strategy, though, is because its resiliency to play against hand traps outside of Lancia.
Yes.
But I mean,
go ahead.
That's why it's a meta deck, and Invoked Mech Knight is considered a rogue deck. You know, because it's playing against much generic count, and like whereas you were saying, Invoked's like here's a good example. Evan yesterday, shout out to him for being a little dick anyway, but shout out to him. I had a chance to win in games 2, and he stopped my Alistair 3 turns in a row, and I just couldn't play.
Yeah, that's the fatal flaw with Invoked. Like me, so on Sneak Peek weekend, which is the first locals that the new list was live for, I played Going Second Striker, so meta, and then the following Thursday I was up at my old locals and I played Mech Knight Invoked, a very, very different list from Joe. And then I played Burning Abyss the past 2 Saturdays, and I played against all sorts of matchups. I played against Thunder, Striker, Salamangreat, Guru, Control, True Draco. I played against everything except Pendulum, and that's because Pendulum is just like a high skill ceiling deck, even more than Thunder. So none of the players that were there, I think, could handle it. But I never ever felt like I couldn't play. Right, I couldn't overcome whatever was in front of me, and that's me playing a rogue deck.
Yeah, I think that's the biggest. I think you hit it right on the head. It's just the biggest thing about this format is like in previous formats for Rogue, it just seemed like an insurmountable wall to climb over playing a Rogue deck, especially going second. Like, yeah, your Rogue deck did cool stuff, but like it just wasn't breaking a meta board. Now, since everything's like, it took what 4 lists to get to this point where everything's like super toned down now. But
except Danger Thunder.
Except Danger Thunder, but I mean that's the exception. That's probably why we got 3 Super Poly, honestly.
Yeah.
But it doesn't seem impossible every single time you see an opening board like that. Like it just there's a way. It seems more instead of like, oh hey look, I can't get over this. It's more like back in 2015 and 14, where it was more like a puzzle, right?
Yeah, how do I play through the interruptions that I know my opponent has and make a follow-up play to put them on the defensive, right?
Exactly.
Go ahead.
It's not, you're fine, but it's just, it doesn't seem impossible to play anymore or play going second anymore, and that's why I think the big change is.
Yeah, because like, okay, take a couple of formats back, right? You had going second against a Goki board or a Spiral board.
We don't go second.
A Pendulum board. And it's just like, those were not fun times to be a rogue player because it was legitimately impossible unless you open Exodia, right? You open fucking Ross Fear Mode plus 2 extenders so that you could still play, or like random stuff like that. Now you have to deal with a Salamangreat Roar or a Rage plus an Ash in hand, or like very reasonable things. And if your deck can't do that, then it's not rogue status, and it's more of a fun casual deck. Like Burning Abyss is extremely resilient because of it's almost, it reminds me a lot of Thunder Dragon because it's just everything's an extender. It's just the monsters you have access to, they're not nearly as powerful as like Levianeer or the Guard Dragon engine, but you can play so many different extenders that it's just like I can do whatever I want, and I feel like I can push through an Ash, a Veiler, a Macabre, like whatever I need to, and I'll still be able to play the game.
That's actually one of the reasons I really like you play, especially like BA right now. It's like it's just all gas, right? That's what makes the Danger Thunder deck so good. But like you were saying, like the monsters they make aren't nearly as threatening as like going against a hot red or going against a crystal wing or 38 or any of those big monsters. But I mean, your deck does cute stuff, and like playing through Beatrice kind of sucks.
Yeah, like, and that's one thing where Rogue shines is like your opponent not knowing, right? How many players have started playing since Burning Abyss was tier 1? How many players have started playing since Invoke came out? Invoke came out in early 2017. It's late 2019. Like they're 17 or 18-year-olds that like had no idea they liked this game back then. So your opponent not knowing gives you that edge, and as long as you know how to play your deck well, you can get an easy game 1 off of that, and then you can just go into game 3 if you have to.
That's where Rogue really shines. Is the fact that you can surprise win game 1 and you just get it guaranteed if you get to go first or second game 3.
Yeah, like
I don't know. That's such a huge deal.
I don't know how many times like my opponent asks, "What does Beatrice do?" I was like, "It lets me Foolish Burial a card. It's a quick effect." And they're like, "Does it do anything else?" I was like, "Not on the field." And then they read the card and they're like, okay, it summons a card. They don't know what Purple Dante does. They forget that it has a Dante underneath attached, and I can add back a Farfa and then summon Purple Dante and fucking use Farfa as disruption and get it. Like, they don't know the weird interactions of the deck because it is so old. BA came out in what, 2014?
Yeah, Dual Alliance 2014.
Yeah, 5 years ago. So I'm playing against kids that are 19 years old that probably didn't even start playing until like they were 17, 18 years old.
Exactly.
And I'm having a blast.
Yeah, it's great, especially when you can play older themes like that. But like BAs is never going to die. That's the problem.
Yeah,
and educated mans.
I think I honestly don't think they'll ever get any love from the ban list because multiple Beatrice is not okay. And multiple graph and Seer are just not okay. So,
I remember sitting there back in 2015 having to play against BA players, and you have to keep track of how many Seers they've gone through and find a way to break the Dante Seer loop, because that was actually just annoying.
Yeah, like if you could follow up mill and then mill another graph and another Seer, like it just seems unfair. Like looking at it now, and I can't believe I didn't get to play in the format where you could legitimately mill graph Seer Scarm, right?
Yeah, I remember the days. You make the first Dante in that first Dante mill, and you just look at it. The first 2 are graphs here. Ooh, so good, so good, so good.
But so other rogue decks. What are some other rogue decks that you feel can stand up in this metagame? Because I think Invoked is a phenomenal pick right now, especially if you know how to pilot the deck and have an optimal build. Because there's a bajillion different builds of Invoked out there, right. But you have to play test that deck, and you have to understand the niche interactions between the meta decks to understand how to build it. And you're not going to get that by just clicking on some random YouTube video.
Exactly. So I'll tell you a deck that I think's really good, and it's only going to get better as the game progresses because we're getting more support for it. But Marine Cess Paleo seems like a really, really, really good deck. And I've been watching a couple of videos on it. Mainly I was watching Phoenix Flare stream because he was playing it because he got someone paid for a DBC to him to play it. And to be perfectly honest, that deck's honestly just water Salamangreat.
Yes.
The things it does are similar, but you get to summon an infinitely better like boss monster interruption for totally. Which it's gonna. A lot of the games I watch when you play that deck, what ends up happening is the Marine Cess level 3 monster that you play ends up getting recycled almost every single turn, and then when the Toad leaves the field, you end up recycling the Swap Frog, and you just keep doing the same exact thing every single turn, but without the extra steps that Salamangreat requires to do because it plays so many one-ofs.
Yeah.
You can also play Signet Mining in that deck to get the little like mermaid bitch, or whatever her name is, and then like you have the Marine Cess Wave, which is a trap card you can play from your hand, which works perfectly with the Paleo trap cards that you play. and so on and so forth. And just, like, it's just a really, really consistent deck.
Yeah, I think post was it Chaos Impact? I think that will be a tier 1.5 to tier 1 deck, depending on how much the player base enjoys playing it. Because that's something people don't think about a lot, is if more people played a deck, like a 1.5 deck, it will be a tier 1 deck in the community's eyes because more people top with it, because more people are playing it, right?
Yeah, representation always depicts on how tier monster, not tier monster, but how high a tier of a deck it becomes.
But that is not my playstyle. But I'm very aware that that is a extremely competent deck, and I do not look forward to playing it in October or playing against it in October.
Like I said, it's just only going to get better, and I think it's really good. Actual cards that make it like him.
All right, my next rogue pick, Guru Control, is and always has been a pain in the ass, and it just got a lot worse because when they sit on Double Judgment plus Guru Fiendish with the fucking trap card set, like, what are you supposed to do?
Judgment being 3 made that deck really, really good.
Yeah, and then being able to tech Super Poly, I still don't think I would main it in that deck, but I don't know. I'm not a control player or a heavy control player, but I think that deck, if you do like the slower game, you should pick that up.
Yeah, I don't know. It's one of those things like, man, Super Poly just changes how you have to play differently, especially now because like I don't know. Time will tell. It's depending on the power levels because like when Super Poly was really, really good, like you just fucking should all constructs getting dropped left and right.
Yeah.
And that was a nightmare. But like now it's like we have like infinitely more generic fusion monsters that can be used with Super Poly.
Yeah.
And I think that's what makes it really, really scary right now.
We have fucking obviously Mud Dragon, Starving Venom, Predaplant, Dragostelio, Salaman Grape, Violet Chimera. We got fucking Diplex Chimera, which a lot of people don't know about. It's just 2 link monsters. Then we got that Guard Dragon fusion. That's not relevant now, but it could be if the right deck comes out. I think it's 3 monsters with different name. No, that's I think it's 3 link monsters.
That's it's 3 link monsters.
So,
but yeah, like that card's just like you have to play, like, especially like because for some reason I've played against 5 invoked mirrors in the past 2 weeks. That's been awful. But like, especially in that deck, like when I was playing the 1 mirror match, like I had to hold on to my Alistair for like 8 turns because like if I summoned it and he had Super Poly, I just lost. And that's a scary feeling.
Oh, my next rogue deck is this is probably definitely not a potential meta contender, but if you played enough and you actually know what you're doing, like Magical Musketeers is an extremely fun deck to play, and I think it just got a lot better after the ban list.
That deck actually got really scary now I think about it. Can it like in 1 link monster go like +6?
Yeah, so you can if you let's say you have the trap card that lets you link summon on your opponent's turn, just for this scenario, and they set 5 and pass, and you link summon in the end phase, you can summon 5 muskets from your deck.
That's insane.
And when it's summoned, search it. If they have monsters on, you can either search spell and trap with different names based on the number of monsters they have, or summon muskets with different names based on the number of spell and traps they have. So it opens up a lot of, because before the deck was normal summon, I hope to God nothing happens to this monster or else every card in my hand's dead. But now, even if it gets Veilered or Impermanence, you still have a follow-up. Your cards are still live. Because, I mean, the cards they have access to being fucking Trident, Effect Veiler on Crack, and Solemn Judgment, or Spell and Trap Negate Counter Trap from the hand, like, that's pretty scary. And you can just loop those over and over again with Doc and Starfire summoning more monsters from the deck. Like, The deck can actually swarm now, which before it was normal summon. Hopefully I get to Ties of the Brethren, maybe. So that's my next pick.
Magical Musketeers are gonna be lit.
It's just a cool deck.
It's just like it has such a being able to go like zero card economy to like 5 in an instant, like, bro.
Yeah, and they got that new trap card. I think it was 2 sets ago. Crooked Crown. It's like double summon on crack because it's a trap card, yes, but it's a continuous, and you can special summon a musket from your hand during the main phase. So you just throw that bitch on the field, and you just get a free monster for no reason, and it doesn't go away.
It's gonna be great.
I'm trying to next pick.
Let's see. I've already talked about Invoke. I've already talked about Marine says Paleo deck. I've talked about Hero before, but like I said, we're still waiting on support for that. I'm trying to think if there's another deck that I was thinking about playing the other day.
What about Dinos?
See, Dinos is one of those decks, right? So there's like, I don't know, infinite ways to play it because you have the True King build, you have the Thunder build, you have
Guard
Shaw build, you have the Pure, like, you have all these ways to play it, right? And then all these decks do super, super similar. They make really big monsters and make really, really boards, or they excel at going second and just killing you for playing the game, right? Yeah. That deck is just like, and then like it can do a lot of insane little niche interactions, like Oviraptor or Fossil Dig. Either one of those, like those are 1-card id the War Chalice Justice are, and like we all know that leads like super insane combos, and like it's just a really, really high ceiling. The problem with it though is like you can open like so disgustingly bad that it almost doesn't make it worth playing the deck. Like, for example, the True King deck build, like you could open just like multiple diagrams, all True Kings, your tuner monsters, whatever, and just not a single copy of Oviraptor, and you're just gonna sit there and hate yourself the entire time. Like you could play the Shadal build going second and open every copy of Shadal Fusion and play against a deck like Subterra that doesn't summon an extra deck monster, and you're not going to be able to play because you opened all big dinosaurs in your hand.
Yeah. And I think like the Dino engine, it's weird. It mixes really well with other engines, but unlike Invoked, where you mix it with the Mech Knights and it never seems to conflict, like in Dinos, if you open too much of one engine, you're just sitting there looking at your fucking cards, despite how pretty they are.
Yeah, it's one of those things that, like, this is why I don't think the deck itself is going to be able to compete with other rogue decks, is because it can't do anything without a supplementing engine. And, like, you need other cards to go with Dino cards to make them broken. Like, Double Evolution Pill becomes really broken when paired with Thunder cards. True King Dinos, like, Baby Sarasaurus gets really broken when paired with a suitable True King, and so on and so forth. And like it's not a standalone deck, and that's the biggest problem.
Let's just get Lithosagem to 1 and we'll be good.
Oh, that'd be insane. I feel like that would fix a lot of the breaking problems the deck has.
Because when you open a True King and no fire and you're just sitting there, but if you have your fucking Earth guy, it'll always be live. But anyways, I just don't think there's an optimal build, because people are trying. When looking at the Dino deck, people are trying to do too much with it, right? They're trying to make it have all these flashy combos and boards, when Dinos are just meant to punch you in the face and make you not live anymore.
Yeah, like you have this one big monster. He's 3,500. He runs
It's named Big Dick Johnson.
Big Dick Johnson, BDJ for short. That's all you want to do. You just want to summon him and kill everyone.
That is. Like, I'm not a fan of Dinos, but Ultimate Conductor Tyranno is such an insanely cool card that is the only reason I want to play it.
It became even more broken when we got Double Evolution Pill. But, like, there's only so many engines that go well with that card. That's a big problem, too. And, like, I don't know. It's just, I could go on for years about why Dinos are just never going to be good. But, like, you know, like, at the end of the day, like, it's still a cool ass engine.
Yeah, it can. At the end of the day, the deck can compete on a rogue level, like 100. Like, there's no question. You will steal games that you should not win just because your cards are in a vacuum, they're so strong, and when they work, they're better than your opponent's cards. It's just sometimes they just don't mix well, and you're just sitting there looking at a house made out of fucking bricks.
In the form of cardboard.
So, what are some decks you think that are under rogue status, but people want to be a viable strategy?
All right, so there's always going to be some form of Shadal. That deck has Infinite Love, but it doesn't have the necessary cards.
I don't think that even if that deck had 3 construct, it just needs more. It needs another support card because it got screwed by Link Vrain's Pack 1.
It got screwed by what? Because you cut out really bad.
By Link Vrain's Pack 1. Like, El Shadal construct just sucks.
Yeah, that card just... Sorry, it needs something to supplement it because all the engines that would go good with it all got kind of like neutered because of Master Rule 4. But like, it's just one of those decks that like people are always going to keep trying, and a lot of people are playing the Invoked build just because like they just want to do it that way.
Yeah, they just want to play Shadal cards because they're cool.
Exactly, they're just fun to play. I'm trying to think of another deck. Necros.
Yep, Necros it's despite how much I want it to be there, and despite the love for the deck on the fan base, without multiple Unicorn, that deck cannot contend on a long tournament like standing. Right, you're gonna pull off Vanity's combo, you're gonna trish a couple of people, but by round 4, your deck is just gonna run out of gas.
This is upsetting because that deck just keeps getting like indirect support, right? Like you got all the incantations, you got extravagance, cards like evenly matched that make going second infinitely better, so on and so forth. You have Called by the Grave, which helps and hurts the deck. Like you just got all these cards that indirectly support your deck. And like it's still just to the point where it's just below like being a consistently seen rogue strategy.
Yeah, it's like because the deck does not gain enough advantage, right? It's just all like that. Necros was always that way, but it was from an era where that was fine. Consistency beat everything else, and that is just where we're at. So I think Trickstar is another one that's just now after the ban list with 1 light stage, 1 terraforming. Trickstar is just basically unplayable as a pure deck.
That deck lost 3 copies of its Candina without actually ever touching Candina.
Yeah,
and like that just made it like because that was one of the big appealing things. It was a 1 card.
Yeah, it was a 1 card engine. You could play 9 Candina. Oh, well, we got 8. Now we got 6.
Actually, I don't even think you... Oh, well, I mean, you can play set rotation. So, yeah, technically you have 6. But, like, that just, like, made the deck... The deck was already getting phased out with cards getting better and better. Now it just got even worse.
Yeah,
it's like...
I just picture, like... the Speedroid player from Zoo Format, like in the back of the room, like, no, my third copy gone.
Son of a bitch. I lost Terratop. They knew I was on the up and coming, boy. Doesn't even realize Zoo was a deck.
Yeah, and that's how the Trickstar players are. And you're like, no, my Candina.
Doesn't realize that card was a victim of Orcust.
Yeah.
But I mean, like, to be fair, like, Light Stage to me, like, don't get me wrong, like, I get where they were going, but I feel like Konami didn't future-proof it well, and it just became, like, it did way more than what it was intended to be, because it was just, like, 1 card combo, plus it stopped a back row, like, that's pretty lit going second.
I know it came out in Code of the Duelist, so it's, like, the new archetype from the new series. They want to make it good, but, like, a non-once per turn card that MST is a fucking back row, that like you said, turns on the entire engine. Like, you can't expect that to not ever be abused, especially. And then they print Trickstar Korribane, who, like, Light Stage Candina into Korribane is fucking Orcus combo. Like, I don't know what they're thinking, but
it's just like I said, it's just showing that Konami still very much has its flaws when designing cards, because it wasn't future proofed well. It just really wasn't. They're like, oh, this card will never be used outside of Trickstar. Prince Orcus 12. Look at here, boys. The TCG in America is a bunch of fucking degenerates.
Yep. All right, and lastly, since I put it on the thumbnail, might as well talk about it. Altergeist, thoughts?
So that deck got a lot of ways to search Altergeist, being in All Mirage and Sangan now, so you have a lot of ways to open it. But it only has one multi-faker, and the deck, again, was being phased out by time by just other better decks. Yeah. So, like, I'm not saying it's in a worse position, but it's definitely in a very less appealing situation, concerning your win con went from 3 main deck copies to 1 main deck copy. Sure, you have infinite more ways to search it, but at the end of the day, it's at 1 copy, and once it leaves the field and gets called by the grave, the deck is not going to play anymore.
Yeah, and, like, hard opening multi-faker plus a trap you can activate before you're supposed to be able to. Like, how many games did Altergeist players win because of that interaction, right? Like
multi-faker impermanence,
multi-faker impermanence, multi-faker evenly matched. Like, if you don't if you have to search it, then those cards are dead. And if you have to wait till your turn, then your deck is just going to function as normal, but it's just a worse control deck of other things that we have. If the support that they got in the past 3 months wasn't just straight ass, then maybe I'd be talking a little bit differently. But I think if you're a fan of the deck, keep playing it, but just don't take it to a regional unless you want to go X2 and drop.
You're just going to get bodied. It's just going to be a bad.
Yeah. But guys, if you have enjoyed this video, I'll let Joe do his closing comments before I sign off.
Don't forget, Rogue for Life invokes the best deck ever, and Douglas French still has no solid.
All right, guys, you've heard it here first. So that has been episode 22 of X2 Drop. The podcast goes up every Monday at 8 o'clock on iTunes and Google Play, and 10 a.m. on YouTube on my channel and the Duel Factory's channel. So youtube.com/bingohd and youtube.com/the Duel Factory. Joe, you got anything else?
I'm
nope.
gay.
Peace out, bitches.
Okay, bye.